Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are really glad you're here with us today because we are going to spend some time in a place that, depending on, who you are, is either your second home or your worst nightmare.
The terminal.
The terminal, the black screen.
The blinking cursor. The void.
It creates a very specific kind of anxiety, doesn't it? You open a command prompt and it's just this blank slate staring back at you, just waiting.
Right, waiting for instructions.
Exactly. And there is a very specific moment of friction that happens there. You download a new tool, you fire it up, you type the name of the program, you hit enter, and then
nothing happens.
Silence.
Just dead silence.
Yeah.
The cursor drops to the next line.
And you don't know if it ran, if it crashed, if it's waiting for a password, or if it's just, I don't know, ignoring you.
It's the digital equivalent of walking up to a receptionist who just stares at you without blinking. I mean, it's technically a functioning interaction, but it feels so broken.
It feels rude. And that is exactly what we are fixing today. We're diving into a really granular, fascinating piece of Haskell programming that is, well, it's all about manners.
It's about how to make your software polite enough to introduce itself.
Exactly. So we're analyzing a blog post from kianmeng.org, written by an author named Ang.
Now, Ang describes himself as an old software plumber, which is a title I just absolutely love.
Sets the tone perfectly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It suggests someone who isn't just worried about the shiny front-end pixels, but about the pipes.
The infrastructure, yeah, the messy stuff underneath the floorboards.
And the specific entry we're pulling apart today is, which sounds niche, but if you've ever dealt with text encoding, character sets, formatting for e-readers,
Yeah.
you know that is a gnarly problem to solve.
Oh, absolutely. Text conversion is one of those things that looks so easy until you try it and then you just drown in edge cases.
Right.
But the problem he's solving in this specific entry isn't about character encoding or anything like that. It's about that user experience problem we just mentioned.
Right. So here's the scenario. You download XS2 ebook. You are ready to go.
Huh.
You open your terminal. You type XS2 ebook and hit enter.
Nothing. The program just runs and finishes without telling you what it did or what you're even supposed to do.
Which is so confusing. If I run a tool without giving it any instructions, no file names, no flags, nothing, I kind of expect it to tell me how to use it.
You expect a menu, or at least a help screen.
Exactly. We want the program to say, hey, I see you didn't ask for anything specific, so here's a list of things I can do. But that wasn't happening.
So the mission for this deep dive is to unpack how Ang uses the optparse-applicative library in Haskell to fix this. How do we turn that silence into a helpful menu?
And what I really appreciate about this source is that Ang doesn't just throw code at us. He uses some really clever analogies.
The fast food drive-thru and a restaurant chef.
Yeah, to explain how the logic works. Those analogies are gold. We're definitely going to spend some time on those. But let's start with the technical challenge. We're dealing with optparse-applicative.
Right.
So for those of us who aren't writing Haskell every day, what is that?
So optparse-applicative is a library. In the Haskell ecosystem, it's pretty much the industry standard for parsing command line options.
Okay.
When you type flags like help or FBV for verbose, or when you pass a file name, this library is the engine that reads those text strings and converts them into data the program can actually use.
Got it. So it's the translator between me typing on the keyboard and the Haskell code logic.
Precisely. It builds a parser. And usually a parser is looking for something specific. Give me a string or give me a number.
But in this case, Ang wants it to handle the absence of something.
Correct. And he outlines this 3-step process to get this HelpOnEmpty behavior working. And the first step is actually, well, it's kind of counterintuitive. It stopped me in my tracks when I first read it. He says we have to ensure the default parser is set to empty.
Okay, let's unpack this. Why would we set a parser to empty? Doesn't that just mean do nothing or null?
In many languages, yeah, it would. But in Haskell, specifically within the context of the alternative type class, which is what this library uses, empty represents the identity element for failure.
So it means this parser always fails.
It basically means this parser always fails, yes.
Wait, you want it to fail?
In this specific scenario,
Yeah.
Yes. Think of it like a circuit breaker or a tripwire. If the parser is looking for arguments and finds none, we want it to trip.
You want it to signal a failure state.
Exactly. Because if it doesn't fail,
It might just accept the silence as valid input.
right, it effectively says, okay, you gave me nothing, I'll do nothing with it. And the program exits. Successfully, but silently.
So by setting it to empty, we are forcing the system to say, hey, something is missing here.
Ah, I see. It's like we are setting a trap.
Yeah. We need the user to trip the wire so the alarm goes off.
But in this case, the alarm isn't a siren, it's the help menu.
That's a perfect way to put it. You need the failure to trigger the response.
And that leads us directly to step 2, the plan B. This is where he introduces parser prefs.
Parser preferences.
Oh.
See the code here? He defines a new binding called arg-parser-prefs.
Correct. And this is where the magic happens. He uses a function called prefs and passes it a specific modifier.
showHelpOnEmpty.
showHelpOnEmpty.
I love it when code does exactly what it says on the tin.
It's refreshing, isn't it? So this is basically the instruction manual for the failure state. It says, okay, remember that tripwire we set in step 1? If that happens, if the input is empty, don't just crash, don't throw a scary error message, show the help text.
Okay, so we have the tripwire, which is the empty parser, and we have the rule for what to do when the wire is tripped, showHelpOnEmpty.
Right.
But there's a third step, isn't there? You can't just write the rule. You have to make sure the program is actually, checking the rule book.
This is the crucial part. This is what trips people up, even experienced developers. In the original code, Ang was using a function called xparser.
And that's the standard off-the-shelf one?
That's the default setting, yeah. It works for 90% of cases, but it uses default preferences. It doesn't know about our special arg-parser prefs.
It's like hiring a security guard who follows the standard handbook and just ignores the sticky note you left on the monitor.
That's a great analogy. So even though we define showHelpOnEmpty, the standard executor is just ignoring it. It's following its standard procedure.
So what does he do?
He has to switch from customExecParser to customExecParser.
customExecParser.
Yes. The customExecParser function specifically asks for those preferences. It takes our arg-parser prefs as an argument. So now, when the program runs, it's looking at that custom rulebook we wrote.
And I'm looking at the code snippet, lines 14 and 15. He sets up arg-parser prefs equal to prefs showHelpOnEmpty.
Yeah.
And, the expert in me has to point out something interesting he mentions about line 4. He exports this binding.
That is a great catch. He mentions that in Haskell, this binding arg-parser prefs is immutable. It's more like a constant than a variable.
What's it set? It's set.
Right. And he exports it so that later on, if he writes test cases in a separate file, the tests can access those exact same preferences.
So he doesn't have to copy-paste the rules into the test file.
Exactly. It guarantees that what he is testing is exactly what is running in production.
That is just good engineering hygiene. It's the plumber mindset again. No leaky abstractions.
Sure.
Okay, so we've got the code logic. Set parser to empty, define the preference, and use the custom executor.
Right.
But if your brain is starting to swim in function names, Ang has us covered.
He does.
He drops this fantastic analogy about a fast food drive-thru.
This is honestly one of the best technical analogies I've seen in a while. It strips away the syntax and it really clarifies the separation of concerns.
Okay, so picture it. You pull up to a drive-thru. You are the user. The car is your terminal.
And in this analogy, the customExecParser, that function we just talked about, is the intercom system.
The intercom. It's the hardware, the thing listening to you.
Right. It's waiting for input. Now, arg-parser prefs are preferences. That's the store policy, the rule.
And the rule is, if the customer pulls up to the intercom and doesn't say anything,
play the menu automatically.
I love that. So arg-parser info is the menu itself.
The list of options, burgers, fries, or in this case, command line flags.
And finally, the result variable in the code is the bag of food. It's the prepared order that you drive away with.
Exactly. So if you just sit there at the intercom, the customExecParser, and your silent empty arguments, the intercom checks the rule, arg-parser prefs, sees the silence equals menu policy, and reads the menu arg-parser info to you.
It really helps you understand that the intercom, the executor, and the rule, the preferences, are two totally different things.
They are. You can have a working intercom, but without that rule, it just sits there in awkward silence.
That distinction is so helpful. Because in code, it's so easy to mash everything together in your head. But separating the tool from the policy makes it click.
And he doesn't stop there. He has another analogy, further down in the post, that distinguishes between parsing and execution.
The chef.
The chef. This one is about the difference between line 11 and line 12 of his code.
Okay, let's look at that. So line 11 is where we call customExecParser. And line 12 is just the word result.
Right. Which looks weird if you aren't used to Haskell. It looks like he's just stating a variable name on its own line.
It does.
But the analogy clarifies it. He says, line 11, the parsing is like the chef reading the order ticket.
Okay. Customer wants a burger, no pickles.
Right. That is information processing. You are figuring out what needs to be done. You are validating it. Do we have burgers? Is no pickles a valid option?
But, and this is the key, You haven't cooked anything yet.
The grill is cold. That's line 11, reading the ticket. And line 12. Line 12 is the chef actually turning on the grill and making the food.
Well, that's the execution.
That's the execution. In Haskell especially, there is this really strict boundary between defining an action, like parsing the order, and performing the side effects, like cooking the food.
So line 11 determines what to do, or in our case, decides to show the help menu because the ticket was blank, and line 12 actually does it.
Precisely. And for Ang, seeing that distinction order, ticket versus cooking, is what makes the logic robust. You don't want to start cooking the burger before you've finished reading the ticket.
You end up with a mess.
You do.
You know, speaking of robust, I want to pivot a little bit here. We've been talking about the code, but I'm just absolutely fascinated by the source itself, Kian.org. This is not just a coding blog.
Oh, not at all. It's a journal of a true polymath. It's more like a laboratory notebook for a very curious life.
We called him the old software plumber. But looking at the sidebar of his site, he's an old everything plumber. The list of topics is just wild.
It is so impressive. You have notes on Haskell, obviously, but right next to it, notes on gardening, notes on fish keeping, notes on dieting.
And it's not surface-level stuff. I'm looking at the titles. Under fish keeping, he has Part 185, a surprise zebra danio spawn, and the blackbeard algae outbreak.
Oh, the dreaded blackbeard algae. That is the nemesis for anyone with a planted fish tank.
And in gardening, Part 793, the resilient beauty of zinnia. Or this one just cracked me up. Addressing Leggy Vinca.
Addressing Leggy Vinca sounds like a diplomatic intervention, like he had to sit the plant down and have a serious talk with it.
It really does, but it shows this incredible level of detail. You know, he's treating his garden exactly like he treats his code.
That is the connection, isn't it? He calls himself a tinkerer. Whether he's debugging a command line interface or debugging the nutrient levels in his fish tank to stop algae, the mindset is identical.
It really is. He has notes on photography, notes on dieting. It paints a picture of someone who learns by doing and then documents the process meticulously.
I mean, think about the discipline required to write 46 parts on Haskell and nearly 800 parts on gardening. This is someone who believes in the value of incremental improvement.
And it totally changes how you read the coding advice. When he explains the optparse-applicative library, he's explaining it with the same patience he probably uses to propagate ferns.
Right, and he does have propagating ferns in the sidebar, too. It suggests that he sees software not as this abstract, magical thing, but as a system.
Like an ecosystem.
Like an ecosystem in a tank or a garden bed. It has inputs, it has rules, and sometimes you get weeds or bugs, and you have to figure out the root cause.
I love that. The bug in the code is just blackbeard algae in the text editor.
Exactly. And the fix he implemented today, making the CLI polite, is essentially good gardening. It's pruning the user experience.
Pruning. I like that.
The default behavior was overgrown, it was messy, it left the user lost in the weeds. So he pruned it back. He added a rule, showHelpOnEmpty, to guide the user to the right path.
It makes sure that when someone walks into the garden or the program, they aren't lost. They see the path clearly.
That is a beautiful way to put it. It's about hospitality, whether it's a fish tank that is healthy for the fish or a command line tool that is helpful to the user.
And the frequency is just, I mean, looking at the archives, in January 2026 alone, there are 93 posts.
93?
93, yes. Daily doesn't even cover it. He's posting multiple times a day sometimes. That is the mark of a learner persona who is constantly processing the world around them.
It's inspiring, honestly. It makes me want to go document something. Anything. It reminds me of that idea, I think it's the Feynman technique, that you don't truly understand something until you can explain it. Or in Ang's case, until you can write a note about it. And it creates a sense of momentum. If you document what you learn, even the small things, you build up this massive library of knowledge over time.
It becomes an external brain.
It really does.
So let's recap what we've added to our own library today. We started with a specific problem. The XS2 ebook tool was giving us the silent treatment.
Right. And to fix that, we dove into optparse-applicative. We learned we need 3 things. First, set the parser to empty so it fails on silence.
That's our tripwire.
Second, set the parser prefs to show helpOnEmpty.
That's our policy.
And third, swap out the standard executor for customExecParser so it actually reads those preferences. That's our working intercom.
And we solidified that with a drive-through analogy. The intercom needs a rule to know that silence means show the menu.
And we wrapped it up by looking at the chef, the difference between parsing the order ticket and actually cooking the meal, that separation of parsing and execution.
It's a really elegant little fix. And it's such a good reminder that good software isn't just about the complex algorithms. It's about those little touches of usability.
Absolutely. The politeness of the program really matters.
So here is where we leave you today. We've talked about Aang's multidisciplinary life, from coding to aquariums to parboiled rice. And it raises a question for you.
We often think of our hobbies and our work as separate boxes. I code from 9 to 5, and I garden on weekends.
But clearly, for Aang, they feed into each other. The patience of the gardener makes him a better debugger.
The systematic thinking of the programmer helps him manage the chemistry of a fish tank.
So look at your own sidebar. What are your hobbies? Are you a baker? A runner? A painter? Maybe you're into woodworking.
And how do the skills you learn there apply to the problems you are solving here in your professional life?
Maybe the patience you learned waiting for sourdough dough to rise is exactly what you need to solve that stubborn architecture problem.
Or maybe the structural integrity you learn in woodworking helps you build better database schemas. Everything is connected. The way you do anything is the way you do everything.
Thanks for diving in with us. Go prune some code, or maybe go address your own leggy vinca. We'll see you next time.